Welcome to High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, the space where grown-ass women get real, get inspired, and get empowered. Where confidence meets class and real talk meets real women. Where we celebrate the power, resilience, and beauty of womanhood. I'm your host, Namia Carnice, your sister in style, success, and soulful conversation. This podcast is for my seasoned ladies, the women who've been there, done that, and still are stepping strong. From career moves to self-care, from relationships to reinvention, we keep it real, we keep it classy, and we always keep it fly. Now go grab your wine, your coffee, or your tea, because this is High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, and we got some grown woman talk to do. And don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Let's go. Hey, come on into the room. Come into the I got a meeting in the ladies' room. Come on into the ladies' room on this evening. I'm going to let a few folks come on and enter into the room, and we'll start checking in. And as you enter into the ladies' room on this evening, I'm your host, Namia Carnice, and we got a good conversation to be had, a great high heels and lipstick conversation for this evening. Of course, our question of the night is, do you believe love after 40 is better because you're wiser or harder because you're less willing to settle? So that's what I want as you enter into the ladies' room. Answer that question for me, and we're going to have some good conversation on this evening. I'm gonna give y'all a chance to go grab your glass of wine. Maybe you sipping on some tea this evening. Maybe you just sipping on some water. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. And as you enter in the room, please check in. You know how we check in here at High Heels and Lipstick Conversations. We do so in the chat. We put some kissy lips in as you enter into the ladies' room. We put some kissy lips in the chat, some high heels in the chat, or we just say, hey, girl, hey, whatever the case may be. If you're a brother checking in on this evening because you're interested in the conversation, we would love for you to check in as well. So it's going to be a good one on this night. So again, the question of the night, and I'm going to share this again more than once. The question of the night is, do you believe love after 40 is better because you're wiser or harder because you're less willing to settle? That's our question for the night. I'll showcase that again as we're having a conversation. I shared that post earlier today on my social media platforms, and there were some interesting responses. So we're going to get to some of those responses here in just a minute. Listen, if you've never seen an episode of Lipstick and High Heels Conversation, High Heels and Lipstick Conversation, let me just tell you what we're about. We're about real conversation. We're about purpose and femininity and faith over here. We're about real grown woman shit, real grown woman conversations. And so tonight is going to be no different, okay? We're going to be talking about love after 40. We're going to take folks to wife school, okay? And we're going to talk about preparing to be not just a bride, but preparing to be a wife. Now, listen, I want to preface this because I had apprehensions about having this conversation on tonight. I've had friends that, have shared, with me, hey, you should talk about XYZ on your platform. And I have always been reluctant when it comes to the conversation about marriage and sharing what my thoughts about marriage, so on and so forth. Not because I was afraid of what people would say or whatever, but more so the fact that, in comparison to some of my other friends, in comparison to my guests who's going to help me to have this conversation tonight. My husband and I are 6 years deep, right? So we would probably still be considered in the honeymoon phase of marriage. This is my husband's second marriage, is my first marriage. And so my reluctance was surrounding around, do I even know enough to give my thoughts and opinions about marriage? Okay. But that's changed. I'm going to have some conversation. I know some things, spiritually, biblically, I know some things. And so I'm a believer in God's word. And I think these conversations are important, especially for women who we consider seasoned, who are in our age group, my age group, because women are waiting longer to get married, one, okay? And so we still need to know what it takes to be a wife. We still need to know some of the things that are important for us as women, some attributes, some things to look for, some, expectations to have, some expectations not to have. We still need to have those conversations, even though we've reached an age where we've experienced life, so on and so forth, because marriage is a whole different thing, a whole different beast. And so for those ladies who desire marriage, they desire love, I just think it's still important to have these conversations and not write the conversations off once we reach a certain age. Okay. So tonight we're going to have a conversation, a real conversation about a subject that many women think about, but don't always have a safe space to discuss. So tonight is our safe space. We're specifically going to talk about marriage and, love and marriage after the age of 40, what that looks like, what that feels like. And then we got my guest, her name is Chicha. She's going to come on. She's going to give her expertise. She's been married 20 plus years to her husband. And so she has some wisdom that she can share. I always love gathering wisdom from women who've been married to their husbands and held it down and operated in that mode for a length of time. So she's going to share some valuable wisdom with us tonight and help me to have this conversation. So one of the things why, again, I express why this conversation is important, because I just think it's important to have, no matter, what age we get, but because women in my age group, 40s on up, they still desire marriage, right? And so the narrative that has been painted for so long is that once we reach a certain age, we are no longer valued as women. It's harder for us to find love and have marriage. We are, not thought of as valuable mates to have. And so that's because patriarchy has taught us that thing, right? And so not everybody has my story. I know that as we get older, it does make it a little bit more complicated to find love. Some of that I think has to do with geography and things of that nature, but there's so many factors that are surrounding that makes it harder to find love. And it's not just our age, because let me tell you something, baby. If you know, like I know, if you know, like some of my friends know, if you know, like some of the ladies that I'm surrounded know, that being 40 plus is not stopping nothing in terms of being approached and courted and pursued by men. Okay, that ain't stopping nothing. We are not less valued. In fact, we increase in value after 40 for a number of different reasons that we're going to talk about on this evening. But I don't want us to go with the narrative that once you reach a certain age, you have to diminish your desire for love and marriage. Now, there are many women who are deciding, hey, I've been married before. So this conversation is for everybody. You may be divorced. You may have been married before. You got grown kids now. You still have yet to get married. You're still seeking, you're hoping and desire. So this conversation is just not for one particular woman over 40. Some women have been married. They felt like they did it wrong. It didn't work out. They end up divorced, and now they're hoping for marriage again. So this conversation is even for you. But I don't want us to have this conversation with the mindset that it's just impossible, because I'm proof that it is possible finding love after 40. My story with my husband is mushy. Those who know me know my story. We were not unfamiliar with one another. We were high school sweethearts. And so, but it wasn't until I was 40 plus that we rekindled a relationship, and then we got remarried. So oftentimes society tells women that after a certain age, we miss that opportunity. We're going to debunk that tonight, okay? Because I think that life experience is one of our greatest assets. And so tonight is not necessarily about how to get a husband, okay? Because it ain't hard, okay? You can get a nigga to marry you tomorrow if you really want to. That part of finding a husband, getting a man to marry you is not hard. What is harder is for us becoming the wife that we need to be for the husband. And so I think as much as it is about finding love, marriage, and connecting ourselves to the right person, the right husband, is just as important for us to understand ourselves. It's just as important for us to be prepared to be a wife. It's just as important for us to be healthy. Okay. I want to say tonight's conversation, because some of it will be dedicated around individuals who find love or still hopeful for love after 40. This is not an indictment. Again, my guest who's coming on, she's been married for 20 plus years to her husband. So this is not an indictment for those who have been in long-term marriages. Okay. But statistics show, okay, in 2026, statistics are showing two things. One, that women, especially Black women, are waiting much longer to get married, okay? 20, 30-year-old women, oftentimes they are of the mindset, they want to live life, they want to travel, they want to accomplish things, and they're putting marriage off, okay? So we are starting to see a rise in Black women in particular who are waiting or have waited until they're 40 plus to get married, okay? And I'm just going to show you some stats because I'm all about the teaching, okay? We're going to bring our guests on in just a second. I'm all about that, but I want to be specific, okay? Marriage and love by after 40 by the numbers, okay? So this is important. So actually, let me show another one. There's some statistics about, okay, this is the one I want to show you because these are some of the things that we're going to talk about on tonight. Okay, but there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons to being married after the age of 40. Okay, and some of those pros are that you get to know yourself better. You have developed emotional maturity. Most often after 40, you have worked in your field, your career for a while, so you have achieved financial stability. You have stronger boundaries. You're more intentional about dating. And then you have grown, you have enough life experience that you are there's less pressure to fix someone, right? At this age, at 40 plus, listen, they already got to come fixed, okay? Or come with the mindset of marriage. So those are some of the pros. There's also the cons that two established lives must merge. And I could talk about that. I could talk about blended families. I could talk about the emotional baggage that sometimes comes with marriage when you're over the age of 40. The inability to sometimes let down that independence, right? Because I was very independent for a long time, and then I got married, and you got to learn to let that down. Different financial histories, and then for often a lot of us, once we reach the age of 40, we're in that what we call sandwich generation, where we've raised our kids, or almost done raising our kids. You're never really done with raising your kids, but they're at an age where they're starting to experience life. Maybe they're 18, they're in college, they're out, they're graduated high school, so on and so forth. But then we start our caregiving and we turn that attention to our parents. Okay. So those are just some of the kinds, and we're going to talk more in depth about that on this evening. So I'm not going to hold us anymore. I'm ready to get into the conversation. I see a couple check-ins. Thank you for checking in, Jamaica. Please do check in the chat and give my girl, Chicha Sanders, the boss lady. We call her the boss lady of the Lust Podcast Show. Give her a warm welcome in the chat and welcome her to the stage. Hey there, Chica. How are you? Chicha.
Hello. Chicha, you got
Chicha.
it.
Listen, thank you for having this conversation with me on this evening. So I don't know about you, but I'm ready to have some girl talk. It's a meeting in the ladies' room. I got my cocktail. I don't know what everybody else is drinking. If you want to share what you're drinking in the chat, please do. But what you sipping on tonight? What are you sipping
on? Just a little juice and a little libation. I'm not gonna say, but my drink is tequila. My drink of choice is tequila. So
okay, a little tequila. I'm drinking a little brown. Okay, a little peach brown. So thank you for checking in, Sharon. Thank you for being here on this evening. So listen, let's get this conversation started. And yes. I want to start by just telling us a little bit about how long you've been married, and a little bit about just how you and your husband met, so on and so forth. And then we'll go right into the conversation that we're here to have on this evening.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say I love the intro to your show. I love the motivational energy that it gave when I watched it. So just kudos to the creativity there. And then second of all, thank you for having me on your show to facilitate and have this conversation, because it is the conversation that we need to have among many other conversations. But this one is very, very important. So I definitely I appreciate it. So so for those who don't know me, no problem. Thank you. So for those who may not know me, I am Chicha, aka the Boss Lady. And so I am married to Mr. Jimmy, aka the DOC, for those who may know him by Jimmy or the DOC. Those are our podcast names, but they kind of stuck with us as well. And so believe it or not, we met in college. We met at the campus of University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. So we are college sweethearts in a sense. I was in my senior year of undergrad. He was a graduate student. Kind of met on campus. I worked in one of the offices. I worked in a sociology office. And so we saw each other on campus. And after just chit-chatting and him inviting me over for his famous barbecues he used to have and things of that nature, we finally started talking, and we started dating. And I'll be honest, and I hate to sound cliche when I say this, but honestly, like, the rest is history. Like, I literally met him 28 years ago, and we got married almost 22 years ago. And we've been together ever since. Like, no breakup, no separation, no like get back together. Like, we have legitimately been together for 28 years. So
good. That's awesome. So you got a lot of wisdom to share, right? And so the name of tonight's episode is Wife School. And again, I shared, like in my intro, I had been reluctant to do these kinds of conversations on my platform just because I felt like, I haven't been married long enough to carry these kinds of conversations. But I have, I have some things that, I can share, from a faith-based perspective. But you also have things that you can share because you and your husband have been long-term, right? And so one of the other pieces that I think is so important for these conversations is those of ladies who are looking for love, who are looking for marriage, especially after, the age of 40, it's so important to know that it's just not about being a bride. There's a whole lot that comes with um, being a wife, right?
Mhm.
And what
Mhm.
that means. And it doesn't look the same for everybody, right? Like your marriage is different from my marriage.
True.
My marriage is different from the next lady, the next woman's marriage.
Mm.
But it
Mhm.
comes with the whole, if you take marriage, if you take your role of being a wife as serious, right? There's a whole lot that comes with being a wife. There's a whole lot that comes with being a wife over a certain age, right? If you've been single and
Mhm.
independent for a long time, there's some things that you got to shake off, right? Again, if you're serious about
Yeah.
your role of being a wife, if you're serious about marriage, okay? And we're going to get into
Mhm.
some of those things. But I want to
Okay.
pose a question again. So thank you for checking in, Mina. Alpha, the first one, says, does your wife's school teach women to be virgin brides for the institution of marriage? Good discussion. Maybe we'll get to that at some point, but we're not there just yet. Um, but we'll probably pick up your question at some point. But my question for tonight that I would like for folks to answer in the chat, and I'm gonna put it up here one more good time. Do you believe love after 40 is better because you're wiser or harder because you're less willing to settle? What are your thoughts in the chat? What are your thoughts in the chat? Do you believe love after 40 is better because you're wiser or harder because you're less willing to settle? Share what you feel in the chat. I'm going to share a couple of responses. I promised that I would share a couple responses to this question that I posed on my social media platform in preparation for tonight. So while some of you are formulating your thoughts in the chat, I'm going to just share a couple. I'm going to get your thoughts on what you feel, Chicha. So Sherry says it actually works, swings both ways. I'm seeing that although you may be wiser and should have learned some of the bumpy lessons of this thing we call life along the way, however, some may tend to find themselves settling, and not because you aren't wise, but simply because of wanting companionship at later stages in one's life. In a perfect world,
Mhm.
it would be great to be equally yoked with your person earlier in life so that this wouldn't be a concern, especially later in what should be the best time of one's life. Okay. So that's one response. There was a brother that checked in and said this was his response. He said, now a man needs to find his wife before he's 40, okay, or he'll be running into a lot of
Mhm.
broken women still under the last man's programming. Men in their 40s should be concerned with setting himself up for life than looking for a woman. Interesting. What do you think? What do you think?
Mhm. I think that's different. That for the man, it's a different perspective than from a woman's point. Like his point of view is that being a man over 40, you need to have found your woman before 40. But is that okay for a woman not to? Like, I don't know if I kind of like that answer that he gave. I don't
No,
think I
I think
like
he's
that.
saying, yeah, he's saying that once you get over 40, once you get to women in our
Yeah.
age group, then we broken. And I don't know if that's all the way true. And that's
But what
part of
ab-
the
but what
conversation we
about
trying to
the
have tonight.
men?
Listen, they come with baggage
My thing
too.
is a age. Yes, and that was what I was about to say, is that it's no different than a man who's over 40, who's been through multiple relationships and things of that nature. We all come with some type of baggage. I don't care
Oh,
who you are, you're gonna come with some type of baggage. So to label a woman's baggage more wrong or more serious than a man's bad baggage, that's not
yeah.
fair. We all coming with this baggage. So I don't like that answer.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Alpha checked in. He says dating after
Mm-mm.
40 for men is great. Dating after 40 for women is pretty bad. So he has a similar response. Why? Men and women are not equal, and biology affects women later in life that negatively affects their dating options. Okay, so we're gonna debunk that. Okay. Alpha,
Yeah.
thank you for checking
Mhm.
in. Thank you for your response. I always appreciate when brothers come in You are also welcome to the ladies' room. This is not a platform that bashes men or anything like that, but we keep it real over here. The narrative that women, it may be harder for her to have children, but the narrative that her biology just stops working after 40 is false. Women can have children way into their, as long as she having a period, she can get pregnant. Okay.
Exactly.
So let's stop with the narrative that for whatever reason that, and that's the narrative that I mean, that patriarchy teaches us, that women lose value as they get older. I would tell you, me over the age of 40, I'm married. I love my husband down. But what I am seeing for a lot of my ladies in my age group, yes, it's harder. Again, some of it is geography, where you are, so on and so forth. But I don't see the ladies over 40 having a hard time attracting men and getting attention from men. And what I see more often than not, I see the younger men,
the other way around,
who are attracted and want these women over. They want the aunties out here, baby. Let me tell you, the aunties is hot right now.
Thank you. That part.
So that's what
Say it again for Alpha the First.
The aunties is out here doing it. The aunties,
I agree. I see the same thing.
Yes. Is that what you see? I know we're both married.
You know what it is? Yes. I see it because what they're saying is that as women over 40 or aunties, whatever terminology you want to use it. Some people say cougar, some people say vet, whatever you want to call it. But we are seasoned. We are wise. We don't make, and I'm not going to say all women, but for the most part, we know what to expect. So that's how we come with it. We're not young. We're not naive. And so we come a little bit more seasoned. And for some men who can't handle that may be too much for them, but that's what you get when you're dealing with a woman over 40. Ain't nothing slow down with a woman over 40. Yes, we do have some biological things that just take place as time progresses, but I tell you this, I done met some real freaky women over 40. It ain't stopping that part of life. It's not stopping none of that. So please don't have this misconception that like once you 40 or plus, that the whole shop shutting down, because the whole shop don't shut down.
The shop don't shut down like they think it. And we could debate. So Alpha, if you came on here to debate, brother, you're not gonna get a whole lot of that from us. I don't debate men and do all that. I'm gonna tell you what I need to tell you and keep it real with you, but I'm not gonna go back and forth with you like that. Biology does happen, but like you said, the shop don't shut down for us in that way, in the way that they think, because again, that is the narrative that has always been painted for us. And I would beg to say that once you reach a certain age, around 40, so who's thinking about having kids? Most times you already got them, you already had them, you're coming from a previous marriage, or so the desire to have kids at 40 plus dwindles anyway. It dwindles anyway, whether biologically you can still have them or not. The desire for that dwindles. That does not mean that she cannot find love or cannot have marriage after the age of 40. Okay.
Exactly. That's a great point. It's definitely a great point. I don't know a whole lot of people that are, like you said, above 40 that's saying, "Oh, I want a baby. I want a baby right now."
I want some kids. Listen, by the time we get that age, the kids is grown. They working on their own kids. We're not tripping over. I mean, there is a segment of women. So I'll just say this. For me, when I married my husband, I don't have biological kids. So I married into my husband's kids, and I took that role of my husband was a single father, and I took that role of being a wife, and I took that role of being a mom, even though I was not their biological mom. And so that too is a very serious role, and that comes with blended family life and all the things that occur. And so initially in the beginning, I felt like maybe we can have kids, so on and so forth. But as I got older, as my husband and I's relationship grew, to me, having had the experience of helping him to raise his kids in the final stages of their youth, leading into their young adulthood, it just became about having a good time and having fun with my husband and traveling and and him being my best friend. And so the desire for having kids just wasn't there as strongly anymore. And so, that's I think as we get older, that desire is most times we ain't even tripping on kids like that. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if
So
I
Nika
could,
says,
if I
"Come on, yes, the auntie still got a baby, baby. We still got it. We gonna let them know. We gonna let them know.
yeah,
They think it die out, get decrepit, dry. Now we gonna let them know tonight." Alpha says, "Men are thinking
ah,
about having children until they cannot. Men and women are not equal. We think differently. We know that. We understand that. We understand that. We're not
right.
debating that. Men and women do think differently, but you're on a women's platform, sir. So you're gonna get all this work and all this women's perspective tonight, okay?" Nika says, "We
Ah,
busy being grandma. Don't no woman 40 plus try starting having children. Our patience is totally different from being in our 20s and our 30s. Absolutely." Mr. is checking in and said
yes.
FTK. Yeah. Okay. So
Hello,
let's
Mister.
hello, Mister. Thank you for checking in. I'm sure my Mister is somewhere
You
on
know,
on the sidelines.
can I make one little
Yeah,
point
yeah,
real
go ahead. Yeah,
quick?
this is me and you conversing.
Because
Yes.
but no, I wanted to say one thing real quick.
Mhm.
Just like how you say there's a lot of women over 40 that's not looking for kids, like I'm over 40 and I'm not looking for grandkids either. I'm like, I'm not looking for grandkids. One of the blessings that I take from it is that we had our kids when we were young. So
Yeah.
that now we are in our 40s and older, we really can enjoy life without worrying about who gonna babysit the kids because we want to go to Miller's
Yeah.
cigar bar,
Yeah.
know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm glad that I'm not that in my life and that we both. It just really depends on your situation.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. I'm
yeah,
gonna say for
again, I
me,
a lot of women over 40 who are talking about they want kids right now.
yeah, yeah. Not too many of us are tripping over that. I mean, we may have had that strong desire in our 20s and our 30s, but by the time we reach 40 plus, we're not really even tripping on that at that point. Not like men think, right? Because they think we get old, decrepit, and all we gonna have is
Right.
cats. Like that is just not the woman, especially the black woman of 2026. Not the women that I'm around, not the women that I know.
Right.
Women are waiting later, even younger women,
Right.
women younger than us, 20s, they're waiting later to decide to have kids. They're choosing not to have kids. They're choosing not to get married, right? And I always say that I think my generation, Generation X, we're the last of what I would call the traditional generation where we were taught you go to school, you get married, we were that was pushed
Mhm.
into us. And
Yep.
this younger generation is just
Yep.
not that's just not their thing like that, right? And
Mm-mm.
there's some
Yep.
sociological
Mm-mm.
reasons for that. There's some political reasonings for that. There's a lot of factors in that, but that's another wife school topic. But so I want to just kind of get into
Mhm.
what being a wife is all about from your perspective, okay? Because we said a little bit earlier, women over 40
Mhm.
especially, they often bring wisdom. And there was a point that was made on the social media post that sometimes women get old and they're still old fools. They bring financial independence, um, emotional maturity, life experience. Sometimes they bring heartbreak from
Mhm.
past relationships, and we know one of the brothers mentioned that. Healing. Sometimes they bring children. Sometimes they bring a previous marriage. Oftentimes they bring career success. Okay. What are the things that you
Mhm.
think? So all of those things are good. All those things are important. But from your perspective, what do you think is important for a woman to bring to the table when she desires marriage, when she desires to be a wife? And remember, not just a bride, but a wife. What, from your perspective, what have you learned that is important in your 22 years of marriage?
I think the first thing that you learn is you have to know, I think that you have to know who you are, what you want, what you need are. Because if you don't, definitely can't be trying to have a man that's going to be your husband, that's going to facilitate these
Yeah,
things, and you don't even know who you are or what you want as a person. I've always taken my role as a wife very serious. The same way I take being very serious. To me, I look at
yeah,
it as a leadership role.
yeah,
Because yes, you have a husband, and yes, we know in the Bible you have your man, you have your king. You're supposed to be submissive. You're supposed to follow and things, and I do all those things. But at the same time, I am also a leader as well. And I
yeah.
think that one of the things that as a wife you have to bring to the table is that mentality, because you also have to help facilitate decision making. You have to
Hmm.
facilitate running your house. I think to me, the wife is very important because you set the tone in your house. You
You
set
set
the
the tone.
tone of what's accepted, what's not accepted with your kids. You set the tone with how they grow up, how they manifest into individuals. You control a lot of that as the wife. And if you don't take that serious, your marriage can run amok. And what I mean by that is that if you don't take those things serious, you don't establish that foundation with your husband, then you really kind of don't know what you're standing on, what foundation you're standing on. And so to me,
Yeah,
it was really important. And I think more important than all of that is also having a friendship, having a real legitimate relationship with the man
that's,
who you want to be your
yeah,
husband. And
yeah,
I'm not talking about like a Facebook relationship or a social media or a
that's right.
Tinder relationship. I'm talking about a real legitimate relationship,
Yeah,
you
that you
know,
like being around him. You
that
like,
looks different.
yeah. He's
Thank
he's
you.
your homeboy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Exactly.
that's
He's your kicking it buddy. He's your partner in crime. At the end of the day, if you had to be around this person 24/7, 7 days a week, is this a person who you can do this with?
yeah,
And you can live to see the 7 days without killing each other. I'm just being funny, but you have to ask yourself these questions. If I'm in a dire situation, is this man going to be able to come save me? Is he going to
yeah,
come be my savior? Is he going to come be my knight in shining armor?
yeah.
Does this man truly, truly understand who I am and what I bring to the table? All of those things
Absolutely.
are really important when you are considering being a wife or even just being in a relationship, period, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to turn that question to my folks in the chat. Share with us, what do you think,
Mhm.
as a woman who is looking for love and marriage as a wife, what are some of those things that are important outside of some of the things that I listed? What are those things that you feel are important in being a wife? I like what you said, Chicha, in terms of the friendship piece of it, because I always say, and I've shared with others, that even if my husband and I were not married, I would still be his friend, right? Because that's our foundation. He would be still be the man
Mhm.
that I'm like, I'm going to kick it with,
Mhm.
Robson. He would still be that person, or
Yep.
Rob, that he's a cool dude. He would still be that person for me, even if we were not married. So the friendship alone makes what we have just that much stronger, because when you have a friend, when you care about a friend, you care about their well-being, you care about making sure you don't hurt them,
Yep.
you respect them, all of these different things.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes I think we limit, and maybe I had those same ideologies, and I'll just share that my marriage is kind of traditional in a sense of what you said, that the submission, and that's a whole nother wife school topic, that submission that we're going to dig into, not necessarily tonight, but we're going to dig into that, because that's a topic, that's a sore topic for women and men, right? Because a lot of men don't understand submission.
Yes.
They mistreat it, they abuse it, and a lot of women don't understand what that means.
Don't
Submission,
understand it.
it's not,
Yep.
it doesn't mean being weak, it doesn't mean that you don't have a voice, but we
No.
ain't got time to talk about that tonight.
Right.
That's a heated,
I
a
agree.
loaded conversation. But for all
Yes.
intents and purposes, my marriage is traditional in a sense. But I just think that's a good foundation to build a marriage, especially after 40. You got to be friends. You got to like the man, right? You got to
Yes.
respect the man. You got to like who they are as a man outside of the bedroom, outside of him working
Yep.
9 to 5, 12-hour
Yep.
days, shifts, so on and so, outside of him providing.
Yep.
You got to like who they are as a man, outside of all of those ideologies that we have about what husbands are supposed to be and do.
You have to love their flaws. One of the things that people don't understand is that when you're building something, whether it's marriage, relationship, we all have our baggage, we all have our flaws. And the thing is, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to accept those things with grace? Are you willing to truly accept those things? Are you willing to accept part of a person's history that has helped them form who they are today? Are you cool with that? Like, are you accepting of all that? Are we understanding of all that? And I think that's really important. I it's funny to say this, but I've read stories, or you see movies and stuff where people get married, they don't even like each other. They don't even live with each other before they get married, and you wonder, like, what was the logic, or what was the mentality behind that? Like, how are you saying that you love a person for better or for worse, and you haven't lived with the person, you don't really like the person, you don't even know the person? So how you think that's gonna work? How you think that's gonna mix together when you don't have the basic foundation?
Yeah. And the knowing a person, for and you, I'm sure you could speak to this. I've known my husband for a pretty long time. I've known my husband since I was 13, 14. And so we didn't get married until later in life. But it was a rediscovery of who he was, the 16-year-old version of him versus the 40-plus-year-old version of him. Share with me a little bit about what that was like, what that has been like for you, being married for 22 years and seeing different versions of yourself, because I think that's also an important piece of being a wife. Like, you have to be ready to discover and learn new versions, different versions of your husband.
Oh yeah. I think for both of us, and specifically for me, I am at a different transition, I guess, in my wife phase. And that's because now I'm not in the wife/mother phase the way that I have been for majority of our marriage. For any woman who is married and also a mother, that can be a tug of war. Because you're trying to figure out, when do I really need to be a mother and zoom in on that? When do I need to be a wife and zoom in on that? It is a tug of war sometimes, because sometimes you think you should be putting your kids first, when sometimes you should be putting your husband first, and vice versa. And so that's different. So right now I am technically, I'm in the wife phase without the kids being necessarily in the picture. Although our daughter just graduated and she's back home, I'm still in that wife phase of not having kids around. So right now we kicking it. We outside, we having hot girl, hot boy summer,
Yes, together, yes.
But 10 years ago, that looked different. 10 years ago, we were not taking trips. We were not doing all these different things, because my focus had to be more razor sharp when it came to our kids. And then once I knew the kids were okay for me, that's when I honed in on our marriage. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, because that also has its flaws, because then you end up leaving your husband out, and you end up not giving him attention the same way that you need, because you need love. You
You
need
need
love
love.
in a marriage. I don't care what nobody say, but you need love in a marriage to sustain. You need compassion. I'm just gonna say it. Hell, you need sex. You need the physical. You need all those things for a marriage to last. And as a wife, you have to know how to prioritize all that as a
All
wife.
that.
Like you said in the beginning, if you take the role serious, you
Yeah.
have to learn how to prioritize my man, my kids, my friends, my work, my life, my this. You have
Yeah.
to learn how to do that. And sometimes it was easy and sometimes it wasn't. But
Yeah.
you have to learn, like Cheryl said, you have to find a balance
You
in it
have to find a
all.
balance. Yeah.
You really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Carolyn
Mhm.
said something good.
Mhm.
She said, I believe it's important to like your husband. We just said that, not just love him. And so true, because you can love somebody deeply, but once you stop liking them, whoo, child, that's a different kind of tired. Yeah. Yeah. And let me say this,
Yes.
there are going to be times you don't like dad. Okay. You right. And
Say
so
it
in the
again.
times, they annoy you, you need your space. I think one pro for me of getting married later in age, and I think I even said it, is I knew myself, right? I knew who I was as a woman. I had grown into a certain level of confidence. And so some things are just no sweat for me, right? I learned to pick my
Mhm.
battles. You also got to learn to do that as a wife. Learn to pick your battles. You said earlier you are responsible for setting the tone in the home, so you have to be a woman who, when he walks through the door, you're about peace, right? He didn't work a 12-hour day.
Mhm.
And so he walks into a home that's nurtured, that feels like peace, that feels like love, that feels like calm, versus what he's, the 12 hours he's put out into the world. But
Mhm.
there will be times that you may not like them and you need your
Exactly.
space. And you have
And
to
you
be
know,
okay with that.
and can I say something? When you get to a point, one thing I think that has helped me and Jimmy is that when you have periods where you may not technically like a person or whatever, you have to understand that just because I don't like you at that moment don't mean like we lost love. That just means that
That's right.
I need to go sit in my bedroom, you need to go stay in the basement.
Yeah.
We still going to bed and all that, but for this next hour, I'm gonna let you watch your show. I'm gonna go watch my show. I'm gonna go take me a
Yeah.
bubble bath. You gotta have just as much as you want both of y'all to be around each other and all that, you have to have the space. That is really, really important, because if y'all get to a point where nobody feels like they have a exit door anywhere just to blow off some steam, that becomes a lot of pressure on both people to try to make
Yeah.
that work, and things of that nature. Like, you have to identify when you need to take a time out. I just call it like a timeout. We need to just take a
Yeah.
quick little hour timeout. Just pause the movie for a second, and let's just
Yeah.
take a quick time out. You got to be able to identify that and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to be able to read the room, so to speak, when the space is necessary. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
equally for me and my husband, we go into those modes equally, right? Because like you said, sometimes I just want to lay in the bed, you going in your man cave, and I want to
Mhm.
watch what I want to watch on TV. I know you don't care about Real Housewives of Atlanta, but that's what I want to watch. And you do your thing
Exactly.
in your man cave, and we'll come back when it's necessary. But definitely,
Mm.
definitely, let's talk a little
That's
bit
it, right.
about
It's no different.
about go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say it's no different than when y'all want to go out. You may not want to go out where he wants to go out, or vice versa. So you like, you know
Hmm.
what? You can go ahead and go out, or you go out with your girls and vice versa. Like, you have those moments when those things are okay. And that doesn't mean that your marriage is ending because y'all not hanging out or watching the same show together. That's just natural. You don't want to be
It's
around.
natural.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just natural.
Yeah, and so many people believe, you know, we know. I see you with your husband a lot. You see me with my husband a lot, but you've also seen me where I'm just with my girls, and
Yep.
those are just one of the nights. and I could walk in a place and everybody like, where's your husband? Where's your husband? Where's your husband? I'm like, tonight is just
Yes.
about me and my girls
Yes.
just hanging out, listening to music, and doing what we do. But I do think, especially for, I have heard, I'll say this, I have heard a lot of couples who got married younger who said that they had to grow into a space of giving each other space, right? Because their ideology of marriage is that you just around each other all the time. You're connected at the hip. And that's not so
Mhm.
true. So I will always say that for me, getting married older was a good thing. Again, not an indictment on anybody that's been married for years or done this from a very young age. But for me, I felt like I got married at the time that I needed to. I was 40 plus. By that time, I had, college degrees, my career was started.
Mhm.
I had life experience. I knew how to pay bills and not splurge my money. Like there were so many things that for me was beneficial bringing to the marriage that that my husband appreciated. And for me it was just better for me to wait a while to get married because I'm a different person at 40 plus, damn near 50, than I was when I was in my 20s or my 30s. There's a certain level of confidence. There's a certain level of assertiveness. Like you
True.
said, even though our husbands are the men of the homes, you still got to come with that level of leadership. So there were so many things that I learned and grew into that I don't know the wife I would have been if I would have gotten married at 20 is not the wife that I am now. I'm a much better, healthier version of myself now. I also had a lot of brokenness, right? At a younger age. Yeah.
My question is, where did the rule come from that you had to be married either very early or you can't be married after 40? Like why do so many, and this is, I think this is a flaw sometimes. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in what societal norms are supposed to be that
Yeah.
some people really try to attain things that are sometimes not just real, just they're just not realistic, because sometimes at in your 20s you're not at that stage where mentally you even thinking about that you're not thinking about marriage, because everybody is different. It just so happens for me that's what worked for me, that I met
Yeah.
my college boyfriend, and that we had a relationship, and that we moved in together, and that it led to marriage and things of that. But I've never put that expectation like on my best friend. I've never judged my best friend because she's the opposite of that. I've
Yeah.
never judged other women who don't
I
have
think.
that. I don't,
Yeah.
because my thing is that that's different for each person, for each woman. But
It
my thing
is.
is, don't get caught up in what society tells you need to do, because there's no textbook on how you supposed to get married, when you supposed to have kids. You live life how you live, and when that stuff falls in place the way I guess God intended, that's how it's gonna happen. You really
Yeah.
can't force it to a certain extent. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah. Yeah.
force marriage and kids, and you just can't. I'm sorry. And when you do see situations where either women or men force either marriage on somebody or they force kids on somebody, you see that a lot of times it don't end well.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, to answer your question, just is just my opinion, my perspective. Others may have questions about why we put so why we have morphs into a society that puts so much pressure on people to get married younger. And, again, the statistics are showing that people are waiting later to get married. But I think it's a couple different things. I think it is society. I think that what was the norm in our parents, in our grandparents' age group.
Mhm.
I think my grandmother was married at like at least 18. My mother was married at 21, and that is what society taught us. And now that we're in 2026 and we're seeing all the benefits of waiting a little bit longer, again, like you said, marriage works different for everybody. For me, it was good for me to wait to get married, to get married, because I healed through a lot of stuff that I experienced in my young adult life. But I do think society has had a habit of putting pressure on young people, especially women, to get married, have babies at a very early age. And there was a study that came out,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a Black woman that she went viral on TikTok. I can't think of her name or what have you, but she made a
Back on.
video, she made a post to say that Black women who have children at a young age, and they're single mothers especially, it throws them into poverty, right? And so she was saying that to express the point that sometimes it's better to wait later to have children, a little bit later, than having them very early, because having children are expensive and they cost. And so she got so much backlash for that thought, because society has taught us that. Society has taught us that women lose value. They're not as valuable. They can't have babies. They can't do this. They're used goods. Society has taught us that, especially around the pandemic area, when people like the Kevin Samuels and all that was really popping and going viral, and the red pill and the manosphere and all of that. Those are their talking points. That as you get older, you ain't worth it nothing no more. You're not valuable. And so I think we're starting to see a turn in that, because women, a lot of women, especially young women, Black women, have rejected that thought.
So if I can add to that, I would tell you this, and I would say this is Coke, honestly speaking. If I could have changed things, I probably would have waited just a little bit longer to have kids, because for the simple fact that when I did have my kids, I was in the midst of my career. I was at the beginning of my career. And
Yeah.
so it was much harder for me to flourish at the level that I truly wanted to flourish at, because I still had to be cognizant that I had two little kids, and I had to
Yeah.
get them through what they needed to get through to be who they are today. So for me, like, it was harder to get my master's degree. I have a master's degree, but I did that with both my kids trying to
Yeah.
be kids
Yeah.
themselves. So if I could have if I could have waited just a little bit longer, I would have waited to have kids, just so I could have professionally really set my foundation in stone without me having to go through my professional and my life and my educational changes with my kids. So
Yeah.
it would have been a lot easier for me to finish grad school. I would have finished it sooner. I probably could have relocated. It's so many different things to that. And then on the flip side of marriage, I think everything happens for a reason. I think
Yeah.
God intended me, and I'm not trying to sound cliche, but I think God
No,
intended
no, no.
for me to
Yeah.
get married when I got married, because I think there was something about Jimmy and I that I think he knew we both needed each other on some type of way,
Yeah.
level, shape, or form. And I think that's why things happened the way that they happened. Because at the time that we got married, we didn't know that we were actually going to get married and things of that nature. We were just
Yeah.
kind of in our relationship. So I think when I look back on things, I see why women are waiting to get married, and I see why women are waiting to have kids. And to me, that's not something negative, and I don't think women should be judged negatively if
Yeah.
they decide to do that. I don't think that that's fair to say that a woman is being selfish because she wants to wait to be married and have kids. I
Yeah.
think maybe that may
Yeah.
be the right move for her.
It may be the right move. And not only that, that may be her decision, or even if she couldn't get to that place until later in life, she should not be judged for that, right? Because it's
Exactly.
hard out here for a pimp, okay? it,
Exactly.
it is
Exactly.
it's not easy connecting yourself to the right person, and finding that love is not, we were blessed, we were fortunate, but it was, for me, it was not an easy road. I kissed a lot of frogs, right? And up until I got married. But again, there were a lot of things that I had to take off, and I want to kind of switch gears and talk about that for a minute. Specifically for women who still desire marriage, who are hoping to find love, even if it's love, there are going to be some things that you have to take off in order to prepare yourself to be a wife. So earlier we talked about, because being a wife is not just about cooking, having sex, looking pretty, okay? Those are all important, okay? My husband love a good meal. I am one who doesn't mind getting in the kitchen. I like cooking. That ain't everybody's story. Some women don't like it. But I'll just say that for my husband, that's important, that he has a woman that cooks, and so on and so forth. But being a wife is so much more than that. So earlier we talked about some of the things that we needed to be and have, some of the attributes and the characteristics that we needed to have. Being a wife, we need to have patience. We need to set the tone of the home. There are so many things that we need to have as a wife. But what are some of those things that we need to take off being a wife, especially for those who are looking for love, expecting love after the age of 40? So I'm gonna pose that question to the chat, and I'm gonna pose that question to you, Chicha. What are some of the things you think are important for a woman to do away with if she takes her role as a wife important? Uh-oh, I think you cut out a little bit. I can't hear you. It may just be me, but I can't hear you. Maybe come out, and come back in. Let me make sure. Yeah, your mic is muted, and I don't know. I don't know. Is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Can y'all hear Chicha in the chat? Let me know. If you can hear Chicha in the chat, say yes. If you can't, say no. If you can hear, put in the chat yes. If you can't, say no. Okay, she's gonna come out, and okay, they couldn't hear you. Okay, she's gonna come out and come back in, and when she comes back in, we'll bring her back on stage. But what I think, some things that we need to be able to let go, and y'all are already answering. Yeah, it says that she froze on your end, so she's gonna go out and come back in. This is a good one, Carol. Letting everybody in your business. That's important. That is important. Being a wife, you got to learn that very early on, right? And so our mamas used to frame it as what goes in my house stays in my house, right? But you have to be protective of your marriage, right? And so we always frame men as being the protectors, and they are. They're protectors, they're providers, but there's some protection that we as wives, or those who desire to be wives, there's some protection that you have to do. And you just can't go around telling your mama, telling your daddy, telling your family members, telling your girlfriends, all of those different things. You just can't go around letting everybody in your business and letting everybody know what's going on in your marriage. And every time he pisses you off, and every time he says something that you don't like, all of those things. Okay, so Chicha, we're answering the question of what are some things that you have to do away with, take off, if you preparing to be a wife. And so Carolyn indicated letting everyone be in your business. Stephanie indicated we have to learn to control our mouth and watch our words, love and kindness. Okay. Listen, let's talk about that mouth for a minute. That mouth for
can you hear
us
me?
yeah, now I can hear you. You were going in and out a little bit. You were freezing up a little bit. You good now?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
I
Yep.
think so. On my end, that shows I'm good.
Okay. Okay. If you
Okay.
can hear in the
So
chat,
what I
say
was trying
yes.
to say before I froze, can you? Hopefully they
Uh-oh,
say
you
yes, because it's not showing an issue on my end, so I don't know what's going
okay.
on.
It just from my end, it just look like you're freezing up a little bit. So it may be connected to your Wi-Fi a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep. 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 Some of the ladies in the chat are saying yes, yes, they can hear you. Yep. No problem. Technology, it happens. It happens. Um, but while you were out, we were discussing some of
Okay.
the things that you have
Okay.
to
So what I was trying to say before Mama,
go ahead. Go
I'm so
ahead.
sorry. So one of the things that I really truly wanted to say before I freeze real quick is that as a woman, stop trying to be your man's everything. That's what I was trying to say before I froze.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
some women we may have a habit of trying to be like their wife. Then we're trying to be their therapist. We're trying to be their
Yeah.
doctor. We're trying to be the grandma, the auntie. We're trying to play so many different roles instead of just playing the role of the wife, the partner, the confidant. Like we trying to do too much, trying to it's sometimes it could be we're trying to control too much. We're
Yeah.
trying to put in pots. Sometimes this is you have to really allow a man to be a man
Yeah.
at the periods of time when he needs to be a man. And I'm not when you have to let men take control of certain situations and you have to learn how to fall back and allow that to happen. But you can do if you should play as a woman, stop playing these roles with these women. And then the next thing is be understanding
Yeah.
when men tell you certain things,
Yeah.
be understanding that so you can't come back and use that against them. You can't use that as a
As a weapon. Yeah.
weakness now. You you can't do those things when men find time. We work on our mouth on how we use that information. I mean, women, we can do that.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that's bad if you try to be in marriage and things like that because it's almost like you want tick for tack. You can't be petty going into a marriage. You can't have a petty
Yeah.
mentality going into a marriage. You can't have a tick
A
for
tit for
tack
tat. Yeah.
mentality going into marriage.
Yeah. I mean, that's so good. I like what you said about not, and it goes back to that,
Mm-hmm.
not trying to fix everything and be their all in all, because you won't be able to do that, right? We're called to be helpmates, right? Biblically, from a biblical perspective, and there's a lane for that. But being there all in all to the point that it crosses over, like you said, into that controlling, where we're controlling everything, we're controlling the finances, we're controlling the decisions, we're controlling just about everything, that
Mm-hmm.
crosses over into not just controlling, but it also crosses over into you trying to raise the man. And at some point, they're going to become resentful of that. And so we have to be very careful of that, right? They're not our children, they're our husbands, right? We're there to support, we're there to help where they need help, we're
Mm-hmm.
there to encourage, we're there to be their homie, lover, friend. But we cannot be their all in all. We can't be their God. We can't be God. We can't fix everything. You gotta allow them that space, like you said, to be able to figure it out and fix it for themselves and to fix it for the family. And sometimes, ladies, once you get over a
Mm-hmm.
certain age, and if you've been single for a long time, that is hard because we develop such a mindset and an attitude where we're used to controlling everything. We're used to making all the decisions. It go our way or no way. We've controlled the kids. We've raised the kids. We've done all of that. Sometimes allowing yourself to step back and not be the final decision or the final say or the one that problem solves everything, is going to be harder as you get older, the longer you're single, and you're going to have to learn to take that off. Let's get back to that mouth.
Your man is not your child.
That's right. That's right. Carolyn said, yes, that mouth. Woo. So one of our, I would say, superpowers sometime as women is our ability to communicate. Some of us are good at it. Some of us are not good at it. But sometimes our mouths can be lethal and deadly. I know how I am. I am one woman who I don't bite my tongue for shit, and I don't bite my tongue for nobody, right? I'm a very in my professional life, I'm a very direct communicator. I say what I mean what I say. You are not going to leave the conversation not understanding my point of view. When I got married, that did not work for marriage. My mouth, my ability to cuss somebody out without cussing them, without saying a cuss word, my ability to say it straightforward, tell it like it is, all of those things, I had to learn to do away with some of those habits. My mouth. Speak to me about that mouth, Chicha. Carolyn says, woo, yes, that mouth, woo, yes. I think you're freezing up a little bit again. I think you're freezing up a little bit. Can y'all hear Chicha? If you can hear us, say yes.
I always leak about our mouth though, and this is what, because I don't women to feel. Okay. Can you hear me?
You're coming back now. You're just a little fuzzy on screen from my end, but I can't ever tell if it's my Wi-Fi or the next person. But keep going. We hear you.
Okay. I have delay. Right. I can't either. It's like my screen doing this.
Uh-oh. Okay, we're gonna, when Chicha kind of resets herself, we'll bring her back. But the mouth, yeah. Nichelle says razor blade tongue. Yes, razor blade tongue. Listen, one of the things that my grandmother taught me, and I mentioned this in my book, which I'll tell you about before the end of our discussion. But one of the things that I talked about in my book, Words of Wisdom Every Grown Ass Woman Should Know, is the importance of how we use our mouth, right? And we can use our tongue, our mouth, to encourage, support, and raise a man up, or we can use it to tear it down. And again, we don't even have to use curse words to do it, but I think it's important, as you know, if marriage is what you desire, so on and so forth, that you learn to tame the tongue. My grandma used to say, sometimes you have to sweeten your words with a little honey and a little sugar, right? You can still get your message across. You can still get your point across. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it. And so how you say things, the way you speak to your mate, your husband, is very important, right? So for me personally, and this is me being transparent and open and real, because we have real conversations, we have real talk of it. We don't sugarcoat, we don't hide, we don't try to pretty it up for the conversation. But that was a learning curve for me, not to just say it like it is, how it just came out of my mouth. And marriage taught me not to do that just in my marriage with my husband, but it taught me to do that with my friends. It taught me to do that in the workplace. It taught me, marriage for me was good for me in a lot of ways, because it taught me patience, but it definitely taught me how to bridle and to tame my tongue. I'm still practicing. I'm still practicing in the area, but I think that's one area that, as women, we have to make sure that we are conscious of how we use our language, our tongues, and the ways in which we use our mouth. So Carolyn says, Mr. Shotwell knows I will cut a fool if I have to, but marriage has taught me that I don't always have to come out swinging with my words. Absolutely, absolutely. Can you hear us, Chicha? You still with us, my love? You still with us in the ladies' room? Oh, you're still a little froze there. It may be your Wi-Fi, sis. Might be your Wi-Fi. But yes, Carolyn, yes. Yeah, marriage will teach you those things. Some of the other things that I feel that we need to take off is childhood wounds, father wounds, okay? Especially for us that it is not uncommon. God bless, the young women, the Black women who had both parents in the home. But there is a segment of us as women who did not grow up with our fathers in the home. And whether or not we want to acknowledge it, sometimes not having that father physically in the home, it leads to fatherhood issues, fatherhood wounds, abandonment issues, trust issues. Sometimes we have bitterness. And so I think it's very important to be self-aware of those things before you go into love, before you go into marriage. The awesome thing about today is that so many women, especially Black women, are taking therapy and going to get healing and talk it out and seeking professional help. They're taking those things seriously nowadays. Your mental health is very important, but healing prior going into a marriage is very important. And this is why, because there is going to be something, mark my words, especially if you wait a while to get married, you don't get married till you're 40, 50, there's going to be something that your husband does or says that is going to trigger that little girl womb in you. Okay? They're going to say something, they're going to do something that is going to trigger those places and those spaces where you have yet to heal or you have yet to overcome. And so it's important for you to be self-aware. Most of you, some of you guys know my story. I was very young. I started in ministry very young, but I was in a very abusive relationship in as a young adult. And so I healed a lot from that in my older age. I got through that. I got past it. I never developed an attitude or a bit. There may be in a little portion of my young adult life where I developed some bitterness, but I never let it affect me to the point where I hated men or anything of that nature. So that has never been my issue, even though I've had young adult experiences where I was young, naive, and connected myself to the wrong person. But it's important for you to recognize those wounds that are laying dormant in you, that insecurity, that naivete, those spaces and places that are not healed, the daddy issues. You've been cheated on before, so you have trust issues. You got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge those spaces and places where you need to be healed. Seek therapy if you need to seek therapy. Seek the Lord if you need to seek the Lord. Whatever it is that you need to do to heal those spaces, because I guarantee you, if you don't deal with them, they're going to show up in your marriage. Nichelle says, true, not having my father in my life definitely affected my relationships. And it will. And it will. Chicha, we're just talking about those healing at this point, like some of the same in the thread of the things that we need to take off, do away with as wife if we're preparing to be a wife. And so healing is an important component, and just making sure that we've healed the inner child, the inner girl, the young girl that grew up without her daddy or father in a home. Because if you don't, those will impact your marriage. Have you known that to be true? Have you had to heal through your
Mhm.
own situation to be the wife that you need to be for your husband?
Oh yeah, you definitely have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with the trauma as you go through different events, um, significant, even things like significant deaths, like in your family that you may have
Yeah,
experienced when you was a kid or growing up. I know for me, in the middle of our marriage, I lost my mom. I lost my mom in 2006. So 20 years ago, I lost my mom, and we were in a
yeah,
different place 20 years ago. And so I had to heal from that because I was bitter.
yeah, yeah. Bitter and grieving.
I was bitter at the world, but I was bitter at, I was mad at God, I was mad at the world. Um, Being honest means that you have to seek additional help. Yeah, you have to be honest and say that I'm grieving, I'm hurting, I need somebody to talk to. I may even need counseling, I may even need therapy, but you got to be real about what you're going through with that other person. Um, I think one of the things that brought Jimmy and I together is that he went through a tragedy. I think those who know him, at one point his brother was, and I was in any stages I really will help you deal with other trauma that you have in your relationship, especially when you go through it with someone. So I think that you have to heal, not just about the woman healing relationships, but it's about the men too, because men relationships too sometimes don't
Yeah,
have the best relationships with their mothers. Sometimes
yeah.
the first hate that they have towards a woman
From their
comes
mothers.
from
Yeah,
their mother or their great grandma, things of that
mhm,
nature. People don't talk about that.
yeah,
People don't talk about that. That's serious. Some of the baggage some men and bring into a relationship, all because of that raising trauma things, and you have to heal. Do you have to admit that you
yeah, yeah. You definitely have to be self aware. Oh, I think Chicha's, you were going out a little bit again. You like, dang it. It's cool. It's cool.
well,
We gonna
it's
talk through it. But yeah, you definitely
going
you have to be
on.
self aware. You have to be cognizant of those areas that need need healing. And you're right. Sometimes men come with their own baggage and their own ideologies about marriage and women and like you said, sometimes the first bitterness and hate that they have towards a woman is to their own mothers, what she didn't do, what she did do, she put a man before them, all of these things that could cause conflict and internal wounds. And it is so important, especially for ladies who are of a certain age. You got to check that. You got to understand that, because again, I can guarantee you, no matter how good of a woman we think we are, we cook good, we give sex whenever they want it, we never say no, we never turn it down. um we're the stand-up woman, we look good, we dress nice, we keep a clean home. All of those things are important, right? But if you don't check and put a mirror to yourself in the areas where you need to heal, where you need to get better, it is going to show up in your marriage. I don't care how good your pot roast is. I don't care how wet it get down there. I don't None of those things um are the premier when it comes to understanding your role as a wife. It's much deeper than that. Okay. So if you are just checking in, thank you for being here in this conversation. Listen, one way we're rounding out this discussion, but one way that we check in is we put some kissy lips in the chat. We put some high heels in the chat. So If you're just checking in, make sure you like. If you're on YouTube, please make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That helps me to get into the algorithm. I want to continue to bring these kinds of conversations. So I appreciate if you like. I appreciate if you share. That does me a whole service. And then also, I like when you engage, when you share your thoughts and your perspectives in the chat. Tonight, we're talking about love and marriage after the age of 40. Earlier, we posed the question and we can continue answering these questions. Do you believe love after 40 is better because you're wiser or harder because you're less willing to settle? We have talked about the things that we need to take off if we are serious about our roles of marriage. We have two women here representing marriage. Chicha, who has been married to her husband for 22 plus years. Again, I am what many would consider newlywed phase. My husband and I are going into our 6th year of marriage, even though we've been married, even though we've known each other for a while and we've been friends for a while. And so we're just dialoguing. We're just having some chit chat in the ladies' room and talking about wifehood and the things that are important, especially after you have reached a certain age. So I want to talk about this too, because this is a trending or was a trending topic. I don't see it as trending as much anymore, even though I still see some conversations. But this thing about marriage is 50-50. And I know with you being married, as long as you have been married, you know that marriage being 50-50 and this whole conversation that's trending on social media and we got to bring 50-50 to the relationship. What are your thoughts on that? Because I got my thoughts, but I want to hear from your 22 years of marriage perspective. Marriage is 50-50. What do you think about that?
I'm gonna tell you, it's not always 50-50. There's gonna be times in there has been times in our marriage where it's been 60-40, where it's been on his end 70-30. It all depends on what's going on in your marriage. Y'all may not make the same amount of money or have the same career things that allow for 50-50. And so in that sense, what, you're gonna cut your spouse off from certain things because they don't come to the table with that? So to me, I think the concept of trying to say, let's bring things together to make this a cohesive relationship, but this 50-50 stuff ain't gonna never work, because at some point somebody may be always having to give more than 50% just because that's just the way how things are. So I think that's stupid. I'm sorry. I think that's stupid.
Yeah, it is. And I want to say this, because we gotta keep it in perspective of the times that we're living in. And so we hear this all the time. So there are a lot of Black women who are advanced in their careers, especially if you don't find love in marriage until you're over 40. So you may be in a space and place where you're doing good financially, your pockets are fatter, your pockets are nice, your kids are grown, you got more free flowing money, so on and so forth. So you may find yourself in a situation where because of your education, because you've been in your job a long time, whatever the case may be, there could be a scenario where the woman makes more than her husband. Okay. And I know that has been a topic of debate that I have seen in social media circles and so on and so forth. I have seen men pose the question about, ladies, if you make more than your man, is he still the head of the household? And my question is going to always be, yes, he is. He's the head of he's the man of the house. He's the head of the household. Again, I come from a traditional mindset. My marriage is more traditional. This younger generation may not feel the same, but I'm just from Gen X, and that's how we were taught. That's how we were raised, and it works for me in my marriage, right? However, what I think women need to understand is that even if you make more than your man, that there's a way that you carry that and you handle that, right? When it comes to, he's still the provider, he's still the man of the house, and there's a way that you have to handle and carry that, even if you make significantly more than your husband. What were you going to say?
It's still a level of respect.
Yeah.
It's a level of respect. No, it's just, I just think it goes back to that level of respect that you have for one another.
Yeah.
You have to have that level of respect, whether one person's making $1 million and the other person making 100, whatever it is, you still got to have the respect. And I think sometimes sometimes I think women more so than men have to be reminded of that. Just because a little bit more, do a little bit more, that don't mean you be disrespectful now because you are in a
Yeah.
different position, and vice versa. The man shouldn't
Yeah.
be disrespectful either. But I think bullshit. I ain't gonna even lie, that's just straight bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn said that 50-50 is bullshit because sometimes, as women, again, it depends on what's going on in your marriage and what life circumstances are happening at the time. There may come a time he can only give you 20 and you got to carry that 80 for a little while, right? Um, and that's just the stone cold hard truth about marriage is realistic, right? And I think unfortunately sometimes
Mm-hmm.
men, this is for men to kind of debate and to kind of
Mm-hmm.
navigate for themselves. But sometimes men, because they come from the background where whoever makes the most money controls the situation, that it's harder, it could be harder for them to accept when their woman makes more, or when she has the ability to bring the 80 when he only has this 20% for the time. It's all about, now I ain't saying going out there and be connected to a bum, okay? So that's not what we're advocating. But it's not going to always be a
Mm-hmm.
50-50 situation, and you have to prepare yourself for that as a woman. You also have to prepare yourself for that as a woman if you've been independent and done it all by yourself for a while. You have to go into marriage, into love, understanding that it makes it easier when you come together in teamwork and partnership, because that's what marriage is
Mm-hmm.
about. It's about teamwork and a partnership and building together. But you may very well have to do your extra part, especially in 2026, right? Like we don't live in the time back in the 50s where women were just relinquished to the home or relished to the home. We're out here working, we're out here getting it. You know what I'm saying? We on our money, we got our purse just like the next person, right? And so it's not the 1950s, it's not the 1960s anymore. We've evolved, and so
Mm-hmm.
men have to accept that we've evolved, and then women have to know how to themselves handle that evolution as a woman to still keep the respects, and still see your husband as the provider intact, right? Because I have seen women in particular who will say, well, I make the most money, I get the bigger piece of chicken, or I make more money than him. And all of that stuff doesn't even matter when it comes to building partnership together. You're building together. And so I agree with Carolyn, the 50-50, that's some bullshit, right? Because at any time that could change. Stephanie says both
I
have
tell
to
you
give.
this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say if I went by the 50-50 rule, I wouldn't have a master's degree, because when I took the plunge to go into education and I had to reduce my work hours and barely make any money to be able to do that, it was Jimmy who stepped up and said, "Well, while you're getting your master's degree and you're getting your license, I'm gonna make sure I take care of that
Mm-hmm.
relationship." It just shouldn't be a golden rule of, he has to do these certain things and I have to do these certain things. No, sometimes you have to have my back a little bit more and I have to have your back a little bit
Yeah.
more. So,
Yeah. And it could shift. And I always, and my husband and I have this conversation all the time that at any moment, either one of us could get in an accident or get sick, right? Our life is built on, currently as it is, our life is built on two people coming together in partnership and building together. And together we do well, right? In terms of being middle class and all that. But if either one of us got sick or wasn't able to go to work or whatever, that could change at in a shift. And so we would have to both individually be prepared for that shift and still remember that our marriage work. It's supporting with one another. It's encouraging one another and knowing it's not about 50-50, right? Sometimes you got to give a whole 100% while your spouse for a period of time or for a moment can only give a little bit. And so you have to prepare yourself for the ebbs and flows. Okay. Dana says most people equate 50-50 to just money and paying bills. It's deeper than that. Absolutely. Because you got to give, you got to give 100% of your energy, your time, your dedication, your commitment, your emotional intelligence, all of that. Absolutely. So it is deeper than just money. Dana also says, right, because some men think because they make more, they can treat the woman crazy. Absolutely. Right. But men were bred that way. They were taught, you make the money, you control, you're the provider. And so sometimes they get this idea that, whoever has the money is the one that controls the situation. Yeah, Carolyn says, yes, Mr. Shotwell is the head of our household. We don't do all that 50-50 keeping score mess over here. We just do what needs to be done at the time that needs to be done. Absolutely. Carolyn also says some seasons he may carry more, some seasons I may carry more, but at the end of the day, we are a team, partners. We are building one home, one family, and one life together. It's not about who did more. It's about both of us showing up for each other. Absolutely. And I would just say, especially for me, coming from being single for so long, I bought my first home by myself. Again, I finished my degrees and all of that before I got married. Going into marriage and understanding how partnership works and being able to relax because I had a partner was probably the biggest gift, one of the biggest gifts that marriage could have brought for me, right? And so for me, marriage has been a very good thing. It's been a blessing. It's been it has definitely been a blessing just to have that partnership. But you got to think like partners, right? Okay. All right, so we are rounding out this conversation, and I don't want to belabor us too long because we've been on here about almost about 2 hours. Yep. So I want to kind of just kind of end the conversation here. One of the things that we often talk about in marriage is what are the red flags that you should look for. So we could talk about the red flags all day long, especially as you reach a certain age and you're looking for love in marriage. But I want to kind of switch that. And I'm going to put this question in the chat. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, and we'll kind of round out the discussion here. We talk about red flags, but what are the green flags? Okay, what are the green flags? Because just as important as it is for us to know what our roles are as a wife, we need to know what we should be looking for in a husband. And we know enough about the red flags, right? If he comes with the level of maybe he's showing some controlling factors, he's abusive, he's a cheater, he's manipulative. He's all of these different things. We know those red flags, but what are the green flags when seeking love in marriage, especially after 40? What are the green flags? What are some of the things that when we see a man and he's presenting such behaviors, we're like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for marriage. That's a good thing for love. So I'm going to start with you, Chicha. What are some things what advice would you give after 22 years of marriage? What are some green flags that we should pick up on when a man is courting us, dating us, feeling us, we're feeling them? What are some of those green flags?
Well, I think the fact that they listen to you and pay attention. It's sometimes Jimmy surprised me sometimes with the littlest things that he will do, all because he was actually listening to me when I was blabbing at the man who paid bills. That's definitely that wants to be your friend. That's a green flag. When you have a man that wants to hang out with
Yeah.
you, whether it's with his guys or this flags. I think that society has, can sometimes look at things of that nature. So when a man is a gentleman, that's not toxic masculinity and things. That's him being a man and being a
Yeah. Yeah.
gentleman. That's a green flag. So are some of the things that you want to pay attention to that they can actually do things for you and not expecting back in return with that. And they're okay
Yep.
with that. Those are flags. Those are
Yeah. Yeah,
my
absolutely. Carolyn says being intentional.
those
Oh,
are
I'm
all
sorry,
my
you're cutting out a little bit.
green flags.
I'm sorry, there was a little delay. You cutting out a little bit, but Carolyn says being intentional. That's absolutely a green flag. Being consistent. Are they consistent? Right? Do they say what they're going to do when they say they're going to do it? Are they consistent? Stephanie says he's going to show you that he's intentional. Listen, men who are intentional are intentional, and you see it in their behaviors. They tell you what they want. They tell you that they want you. They show you that
Yep.
they want you. If there's any ambiguity, if there's any feeling like I don't know if he likes
Yep.
me, and what does it, if there's any ambiguity in what you're feeling, if it feels inconsistent, that's probably a good indication that he is not intentional, right? Okay. Nichelle says he has a we versus I mentality. Very, very great green flag. When they start to, and Carolyn says he includes you in his world. When they start saying we as opposed to I, when they start including you in their world, taking you around their family, talking about future. And I don't want women to misinterpret that alone, because a nigga will take you around their family, meet their sisters, meet their aunties and stuff, and be on to the next woman. So I don't want to say that singularly is what you
And
should be
still
looking
backdoor
for.
you.
Right. And still backdoor your ass, okay? Like Pap said, it's still backdoor you. And they may be the kind that brings everybody around their family, but there's things that you should pick up on when they see we versus I. Other things, that they're emotionally safe, right? They allow you to be who you are, right? They're not trying to change you, mold you, um, control you in that way, tell you to fix this, fix that, change you. Like the same way we can't go into marriage trying to change them and fix all of their problems. They should not be of the mindset of trying to fix us and mold us into something that they are. One of the things that I say for me and my husband, granted, maybe us being friends for so long played a role in this, but the safest that I've ever felt is with my husband, because I can be who I am. I can be Nikki that grew up on Fifth in the hood. I can be Namia, the career woman. I can be the spiritual side of me that's deeply spiritual, praise all around the house, and all of those things. I can be all the layers of the onion that I am as a person, as a woman, and that is okay with him. That is safe with him. That don't mean I don't annoy his ass. I annoy his ass all the time. That's a part of marriage. But overall, I'm emotionally safe with my husband, right? And so I think that's important. Yeah. Carolyn says inclusion in the world. Dana says self
I said, do
accountability.
they make you laugh?
Do they make you laugh? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. It goes back to that friendship piece of it. Do they make you laugh? Are they just as much as your friend, your homeboy, your homie, as they are your lover and your friend, right? Can y'all go somewhere and kick it and whatever you do to kick it, and enjoy a drink, a night out at the cigar bar, whatever the case. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just a level of friendship there. There's laughter there. You can share jokes between one another. Good. Love it. Okay. The other green flags is being emotionally safe, them being teachable, consistent, honest, respectful. And respectful is more than just opening doors and things of that nature. I mean, he should be doing that, right? Like, I'm old school, open my door, so on and so forth. But respectful in such a way that when you walk into the room, you ain't got to worry about 3, 4 other bitches in the place that he done fucked, or who is that woman, or right? Like, it's respectful. People know that you are his woman. Again, there is no ambiguity. There's no gray area. People are aware when we come into the place with each other. I'm his wife. That's my husband. And there's a level of respect that comes with that in being a couple. So being respectful. What else were you going to say, Chicha? I'm sorry. Uh-oh, you went out a little bit.
Okay.
What were you going to say? Something else to add to the conversation? Sorry about that.
Am I freezing again?
It's okay. It's okay. We still.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yep.
I just wanted to say I agree with you. There's what you just said about respect and knowing you the wife, the role of the wife, the role of the husband. I think respect is you respect that green flag. And I think sometimes when we get so used to men talking so crazy that sometimes when men smooth and just be a gentleman sometimes.
Yeah. Being a gentleman is important. Dana says transparent. They're transparent. They're honest. That goes hand in hand with that honesty. Okay. Here's a couple things. This is what and we'll kind of end the conversation here, but these are a couple things that I just kind of noted that every woman should ask herself, okay, before the marriage comes, especially as we are aging, get a little bit older. But every questions every woman should ask herself. So I'm gonna read from my notes, so bear with me. So instead of asking, is he husband material? Okay, ask, am I emotionally available? Okay, so this is where again Dana said the self accountability. So self accountability is not just for men; it's for us as well too. If we take our role of being a wife seriously, and this is probably even more important as we reach a certain age, the 40 and over mark, right? So, because again, we have life experiences, we go through things and things of that nature that sometimes, can be a hindrance to us accepting love. But some of the things that we should be asking, instead of is he husband material, we should be asking, am I emotionally available? Okay. Being emotionally intelligent, emotionally available is important. You should also be asking yourself as a woman, can I communicate? Do I communicate my thoughts or do I shut down? Do I expect him to read my mind or do I communicate thoughtfully, carefully, thoroughly? Am I communicating what I feel, what I'm looking for, what I'm seeking, what I want, what I desire? You got to be able to communicate, ladies, right? You can't just shut down. He's not able to just read your mind, okay? So you got to be able to communicate. You should also be asking yourself, do I have the ability to apologize? And that's hard for us, lady. The men say it all the time. We don't like to apologize. We don't like to take accountability. As a wife, you're going to have to take accountability. Sometimes you're going to have to be the one to say, I'm sorry. I didn't do that right. I didn't say that right. I was wrong. So ask yourself, do you have the ability to take accountability? Do you have the ability to apologize when you're wrong? Am I financially responsible? Okay. I will be the first one to say, I like to spend money. Okay. Amazon comes to my house on a daily basis. Sometimes my husband will like, your boyfriend out there, he don't even go to the door because he knows it's an Amazon pack. Okay. But one of the things that we have to ask ourselves
Yes.
as women who wants love, who wants marriage, is do I have the ability to control my finances? Am I financially stable? Do I just spend so I ain't got nothing left in the bank? Or do I have the ability to set some stuff aside for a rainy day, whatever the case may be? Okay. So am I financially responsible? You also have to ask yourself, can I receive love? Right? Sometimes it's harder as we get older. It's harder for us to be able to receive love. Okay. It's harder for us to recognize love. Sometimes we only recognize love in its toxicity. But you got to be able to say, do I recognize love when it shows up? Can I receive love? Is love, do I not receive this love because it's not packaged in the frame that I wanted or in the man that I wanted? Can I recognize that this man has intention? He means me good, so on and so forth. Can I receive love? Can I forgive? Okay, you got to be able to ask yourself that as a woman. Do I have the ability to be free? Listen, marriage is going to take a whole lot of forgiving. Do I have the ability to let shit go? Or am I a nagger? Do I nag and belabor an issue and nag and we got to talk about it? He don't always want to talk about that shit.
Yeah.
Say what you got to say and go on about your business, but don't nag. So you got to be able to ask yourself, can I forgive? Can I let things go when they need to be let go?
Yep.
Do I have the ability to pick my battles? You can't pick a battle every time. There's a difference of opinion. Okay. It may be a difference of opinion. That doesn't mean it has to be a battle. Okay. So you got to ask yourself that. Can I compromise? Right? It ain't going to always go my way. It ain't always got to be my way. Right? Sometimes I'm going in a battle. Sometimes I'm going to be the one as the wife. I'm going to lose the battle.
Grace.
Can you accept that? Can you compromise on that? Okay. You also want to ask yourself, can I protect someone else's heart? I think I said at the top of the show, as much as men are protectors, there is a responsibility that lies on us as women, as wives, to be able to protect our husband. When we walk out of the door, when we go out with our girlfriends, so on and so forth, the way we show up in spaces, the way that we conduct ourselves, the way we show up, that's a form of protecting our husbands, right? From the BS, right? And there's a piece of us that has to protect our husbands as well, and that typically shows up in how we show up in space, how we present ourselves as a woman. I don't want to get deep on y'all, but the Bible does say that women are called to be the crown to her husband's head, right? And so what that means is that we have the ability to bring our husbands honor and respect. We often hear it said that men respect other men based on the women that they choose, right? So if you out here as a woman and you present yourself in a certain way that's dishonoring your husband, that's making other men lose respect for your husband, right? And so we have to be conscious of how we show up in spaces, how we represent our husbands when we're out here, so on and so forth. Okay. Other questions that we can ask. What are your thoughts? Other questions that we should be asking, a woman should be asking herself, Chicha. What do you say?
I say you do have to bring honor to your role as a wife. You do. You have to, I think.
Chicha's Wi-Fi don't want us to be great. Don't want us to be great. What I think she was saying that it is important, as we mentioned, for women to bring honor to their husbands, and so no matter what way we try to dress it up, cloth it. Let me let you finish your thought, Chicha. You went out for a minute, but go ahead and finish your thought about bringing honor to your husband.
No, no, so you have to bring honor. I always Jimmy and I, we always say, like, when you're by yourself, you represent me, and when I'm by myself, I represent you. We represent each other. So how
Yeah,
you out here looking, that's a reflection on me. So if you are like, if you want to do some stuff, you whatever, just remember this is a reflection on us, our marriage, us together,
yeah,
not just you as a woman or me as a man. So you do have to bring honor to the role on both ends, the woman end and the man side. But I think one of the biggest things that I learned in 22 years of a marriage and 28 years of a relationship is that sometimes my pride, I need to let that go, and I need to open my mouth and I need to say I'm sorry, or I'm understanding, or I don't know why I may have said that, but I apologize. I think atonement and reconciliation goes so far in relationships, and we don't do it enough, because to us that's being weak. To us
yeah,
that's being, oh, I'm not giving in to him. I'm not apologizing first. Sometimes we need to do those things. We again, we set the tone. It's gonna be, it's gonna be turbulence if that's how we come in at our husband at all times.
yeah,
Is you're gonna stay with friction and turbulence and those things. Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. Carolyn says, I believe a wife needs to be a gatekeeper, a gatekeeper. Absolutely. Um, Overall, this is I think has been a fulfilling conversation. I hope that
Mhm.
those who have checked in have gained something. If you have gained something, please let us know in the chat. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. Listen, we could probably talk about this for a real long time. And One of the things I probably did not share at the top of this conversation is I did share that I had been reluctant to have these kinds of conversations because I felt like I haven't been married long enough. But now I understand that, I can bring individuals such as yourself. I have friends who've been married long term and they have weathered the storm and they've been together 20, 30 years. And that is an honor, that is a blessing. Um, at all costs. So even though I have not been married as long, I have people around me who I've observed and gleaned and gained and learned from. And so I'm appreciative of that, of having friendships, sorority, sisters, so on and so forth, who have shown me things, that a pastor, that I have been able to look at marriage and see and learn and glean from. And I think it's important for us to have these circles. I don't think there's any shame in a woman waiting longer in life to get married. I don't think you're going to die. Being the cat lady is not going to be everybody's story. I think we ourselves as women after 40, we
Mhm.
have to be intentional. We have to date
Mhm.
with intention. We have to be honest
Mhm.
about what we want and we desire. Sometimes we just go along to get along and we get involved in situationships and soul ties and so on and so forth, just for the sake of having attention or having affection, so on and so forth, when what we really want is we want love, we want marriage, we want somebody to call our own, we want, and so we have to avoid the tendency to slip into spaces and places and situationships and just be honest about what we want. And if this man
Mhm.
ain't giving us what we want, then we,
Yep.
we seek other avenues, so on and so forth. So I think these discussions are important. I want to continue to have these kinds of discussions. I titled this series "Lipstick and Lessons Wife School" because I want to have these kinds of discussions. Not that I think that I'm the expert on marriage or that my marriage is so perfect or that I have it all together in terms of marriage. Again, it's still learning and growth for me, but I want to continue to have these kind of
Right.
discussions. Could have had, several layers. We could have talked about submission. I think one of the brothers talked about remaining a virgin and all of that. Although that sounds nice, that's always not the realistic thing. From a biblical standpoint, we can teach it and share thoughts, about saving ourselves for marriage and so on and so forth. But we got to also deal in the here and now and what's going on in a world that's full of sin, right? And then, but how do we navigate certain situations and so on and so forth in a world that's fallen? And in a world that's fallen, there are still women who desire love, that desire marriage, desire to be a wife. And so I want to continue to have these conversations. I hope you choose to come back in a future topic. We will continue these discussions, the lipstick and lessons, wife school, for different subjects. So thank you guys who have checked in, who have had conversations in the chat, who have added your thought. Carolyn has been giving us all this wisdom. She says a good wife knows when to speak, when to pray, when to cover, when to correct, and when to shut some things all the way down. Absolutely. Period, point blank. Period, point blank.
She could be a good wife teacher. She could be a good wife teacher.
Yeah, Carolyn, I need to have you on. I need to have you on because you've been dropping some wisdom. But Chicha, thank you for being here, aka the boss lady. You and your husband have your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about you and your husband, your platform, where we can find you on all social media platforms, all of that good stuff. Did you hear me? Tell us a little bit about your where we can find you on social media. Tell us about you and your husband's podcast, where we can find you, when you stream, so on and so forth. So my audience can check in with the Lust.
Okay. Our podcast is the Lust, DALUST podcast show with the boss lady and the DOC. You can find us on Facebook. We're the Lust Podcast Show.
And what are some of the things that you guys talk about? I know as a variety of topics. I've caught one or two episodes and some reels that you guys have released, and you guys have some very colorful, funny, laughable conversations. But what are some of the things that you guys kind of focus on as a team, as a partnership, as a marriage? She went back out. Oh. Wi-Fi sucks sometimes, but it's okay. If she comes back in, we'll let her finish, kind of talking about her podcast. But thank you for checking in the ladies' room on this evening. Before we go, so I think I shared at the top that I have written a whole book. Okay, 2 books to be matter of fact. That I would love your support. And you can go to my website, namiacarnice.com, and grab you a copy today on Amazon. There are 7 lessons for her, which is a guide to healing, evolution, and restoration. We also have a book that I'm working on the 2nd edition for, and hope to get that released by fall time frame. Words of wisdom every grown ass woman needs to know. Again, working on a 2nd edition for that. So I would love for your support. Tell me what you think. You can go again to namiacarnice.com and grab you a copy on today. I am also trying to expand and grow a little bit. So if you are one who is looking to sponsor and you want to help me to grow the platform, I'm calling for all Black businesses, owners, and brands to provide some sponsorship for High Heels and Lipstick Conversation. These are kinds of conversations that I would love to continue to have. I want them to be not just conversations, not just a platform that focuses on relationships, although those seem to be the topics that get the most love and the most energy and the most thought. But this is a platform that's about faith. It's about femininity. It's about purpose. And I think that we can have these conversations and be real and be authentic, and I can be my authentic self having them. And so I would love for you to invest in High Heels and Lipstick Conversations. So if you are a Black business owner, and you have a and or brand and you're interested in sponsorship, you can email me or you can inbox me on social media. My email is info@sheisnamia.com for sponsorship packages and details, or you can just hit me up in the inbox. Okay, so thank you for that. Looks like Chicha is back, so I want to again give her moment to be able to share again. Tell us where we can reach her and her husband to learn all about the Lust podcast show that her and her husband are hosts of. Yeah, so go ahead and finish us out and tell us where we can find you and all about your podcast with your husband.
All right.
Wi-Fi been acting
On YouTube, on TikTok, on TikTok, we are the Lust Podcast Show. On Instagram, we are the Lust Podcast 23. And then, like I said, on Facebook and YouTube, we are the Lust Podcast Show with the Boss Lady and the DLC. And I just want to say we just finished wrapping up our 6th season, our 75th episode. And so we will be coming back later this month with season 7. And so we love guests. Yes, as y'all know, the DLC like being very controversial. He liked talking stuff. So you can always look forward to him making you laugh with something that he is going to say. So yes, tune in, check us out, hit subscribe, hit like, all of those different things. So yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Please check the Boss Lady and DOC out. Again, thank you for being here on this evening. I appreciate you. I'm going to put you backstage and wrap things up. If you don't mind just hanging out a little bit backstage. I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your authenticity. I just, I appreciate you. I've been like, because I've checked out you and your husband podcast and stuff, I was like, oh, she would be great to kind of bring on High Heels and Lipstick Conversations and have some lady chat in the ladies' room. So I appreciate you being here on this evening.
Thank you.
And thank you. Chat, please show my girlfriend, the boss lady, some love in the chat. And just let her know how much we appreciate her conversation on this evening. And then I'm going to put you backstage and wrap up here.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. That is another High Heels and Lipstick conversation. Please share this broadcast. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the page. It helps me. The more subscriptions that I have, it helps me to just kind of work myself in the algorithm. Look, there is so much that is going out on social media in these podcasts today. I want to be an alternative to that, right? I want to be a little different. I want to be set apart. And so these are the kinds of conversations that I want to bring. If you have thoughts, recommendations about certain topics that you would like to talk about, even if it's a topic of the day, I've had a couple people hit me up in my inbox and were like, hey, I want to discuss this. I want people's thoughts or perspective on this as a topic of the day. You can do that, and I will share your thoughts as a topic of the day anonymously. And it may even be a topic that we bring to the conversation on High Heels and Lipstick Conversations. But I appreciate you. I always try to end my sessions with a lipstick affirmation. Sometimes they're mushy, sometimes they're raw and cut, whatever. So my lipstick affirmation for this evening, before we get out of here, is plain and simple, okay? Don't get none on you, okay? The holiday weekend is coming up. Don't let nobody put none on you, and don't get none on you, okay? This is your girl, Namia Carnice. Smooches. Until we see each other again, you've been kissed, you've been loved on, and I see you again. Smooches, y'all.